Welcome back to the gospel. It is the end of the week flagship show. We have a lot in store for you today, a lot to talk about. I am your Jose, the fantasy football fiend, and as always, I have my guy BK Wins. How about the people, BK?
Hey y'all.
Let's go right ahead and hop into it after we remind you that we are now on YouTube at the Gospel STP. Again, that's the Gospel STP. Make sure you check us out there. Also, if you have not joined the Facebook group yet, that's on Facebook at the Gospel Sports Truth. Just type in the Gospel Sports Truth, and our Facebook group will pop up. With that being said, BK, what's the good word of the week?
So you know how I like to rewind a little bit. So we're going to do a little NFL rewind edition. Give us both a second chance to pick NFL division winners. So who you got and why?
Um, Honestly, most of my picks haven't changed. Actually, only one of my picks has changed, and that is in the AFC North. I think Pittsburgh has a chance here to do what no one saw coming and take over that division. They have the right amount of offense. I wouldn't necessarily call it a high powered offense, but their defense is the strength of the team. And they have a quarterback who is playing pretty close to mistake free. And with Pittsburgh, that's kind of all you need. If I need you to go out and score, I need you to do that. But really, what we're planning on doing is make it is such that if you put up 18 to 21 points, we should win this game, barring several turnovers. Still got Buffalo, still got the Texans, still got Kansas City, still have Detroit, and I still have Atlanta for those other divisions. And then I have San Fran um, in the NFC West. So that was my actually. I'm gonna change that one. Arizona is doing that thing right now, and barring a step back, taking a step back, I don't know that the 49ers will have enough time to catch up with them. So I think that the 49ers are the better team when they have all their parts. But based on current record and the schedule to come, I think Arizona can pull this out. Very close, but I think Arizona can find a way to beat out the 49ers as far as that division is concerned. So that would be the only two that change for me.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I wouldn't change any of them. I still have the Bills, the Texans, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Lions, the Falcons, and the Niners. Um, the Ravens, I definitely can appreciate where you're at there. Um, the Steelers already beat them earlier on the road. They got the rematch this week at home. Um, they would put a lot of pressure on Baltimore if they complete the sweep. So this is a much bigger game for Baltimore than it is Pittsburgh. Um, so, and if Pittsburgh wins this game, um, I think it would put what I'm about to say in a little bit of danger.
Uh
But
oh.
I just think that the Ravens are the most complete team in that division. Um, I just trust the overall team more. Um, and at this point, everything has gone right for Pittsburgh. Um, I need to see them have a little bit of adversity, whether it be some key injuries, whether it be, you know, eventually. I mean, look, they're not a 7-2 team. Eventually, they're going to regress to the mean. It's just a function of not if, but when. It can happen this week. It can happen next week. look, they're a solid team, but there's a reason why no one thought that they would be where they are. And so give them credit for a terrific job. Mike Tomlin continues to impress each and every year. He's terrific. But again, they still have Russell Wilson. And, this isn't 2018 or 2019. This is 2024, almost 2025 Russell Wilson. He's been a better game manager than Fields, but he's not been good or great. So until I see that, then I'm going to stick with Baltimore.
Not mad at that. Not mad at that at all. Let's preview this week and give out a couple of picks. I'll throw out the matchup and let me know where you stand. Well, one is on right now. We'll start with that. Washington versus Philly. Right now it's 7-0 and about 9 minutes left in the second quarter, just so you know where we are as we make these picks. But Washington, Philly, who you got?
I'm assuming that Philly's up 7-0.
No, Washington is actually.
All right. Well, in either case, I mean, everybody knows I love Washington. It's an important game for them. I didn't bet on this game. A, it's a Thursday night game, and B, I'm not sure. But what I will say is I would have given the slight, and it's still really early, I would have given the slight advantage to Philly here only because there's an element in any sport, no matter what level you play, of learning to win. And Washington hasn't been there enough in recent memory, but specifically with this cast of characters, there's a process. And so, we saw them blow a 10-point lead at home last week against Pittsburgh in a 1-point loss, a game they were the better team and should have won. But there are no ifs and buts or moral victories. You have a 10-point lead at home, you should win. They didn't get it done. Give Pittsburgh credit. But that's a game Washington could look back and say it cost them the division. They get another chance tonight to prove what they can do. I just give a slight advantage to Philly there. Being at home makes a difference. That's where I'm at on that game.
Baltimore versus Pitt. What you got?
What's interesting is, for me, again, much bigger game for Baltimore. Again, already being a half game back and lost the first matchup at home. You don't want to fall a game and a half back and have the breaker against you. There's not that many weeks left in the season, 6 or 7 games after, depending, because the Steelers still have had their bye, Baltimore not. So it really does make a difference. Again, not a bet. I don't like this game from a gambling aspect, but I give the slight edge to Pittsburgh despite Lamar's struggles against the Steelers.
Kansas City versus Buffalo. What you got?
Look, Buffalo can't seem to beat Kansas City, and Kansas City just doesn't seem to lose. The Broncos had them beat last week. They outplayed them. On that day, they were the better team. Now, let me be clear. They're not the more talented team, and they're not the better team overall. But on that particular Sunday, they were the better team. But you got to be sound in the kicking game and not blow an 11-point lead like they did. But I like Kansas. I like Kansas City. I don't think they're going to play bad 2 games in a row. And Reed and Mahomes seem to have Buffalo's number. Give me Kansas City.
Cincinnati at the Chargers.
I love the game. I hate having to try to pick it. With the Chargers, they're going to play solid defense, play action. They're going to try to run the ball and be physical and control the line of scrimmage. Cincinnati has been playing better over the last 5 weeks. Um, I don't love this pick at all, for the record. I'm going to do something I normally don't do and go with my gut on these. I like the Bengals to win on the road in a must-win game. I just think they're going to have enough offense to get it done. I don't know that the Chargers can score enough.
San Fran versus Seattle.
This is real quick. San Francisco's at home. They're the better team. They're going to win.
And to round it out, Atlanta versus Denver.
Denver. Denver's at home. They've been playing good football. They gave Kansas City everything they could handle. Kirk Cousins having to play against a good defense, you know what that means. It's really tough to play in Denver. And this is a big game for the Broncos if they have any hopes of sneaking in as a wild card. This is a game they got to have. They are a small favorite, basically a field goal favorite, 2.5, depending on where you look. I like the Broncos to win. It won't be pretty. It never is. And it won't be easy, but I think they'll get it done at home. What do you think about these games, eh?
I'm going to go Washington, Pitt, Kansas City, Cincy, San Fran, Denver. The one game out of the slate that I think people may kind of turn up their nose at a little bit as far as the pick is Atlanta versus Denver. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Denver's defense is, of the upper echelon in the league. And Bo Nix has gotten over his rookie yips, if you will, rather quickly, and he's leading that offense right now without very many weapons. So I'm interested to see what Denver is going to look like when they are able to get a few more tools in the tool bag. But they got their quarterback, and they didn't have to spend up to get him, unlike some other teams. I'm pretty sure Chicago would rather have gotten Knicks and a boatload of picks by trading down from one than what they've seen thus far. Just humble opinion. But yeah, that's what I got on those.
So, turning to college football, there's a few key matchups this week, and I wanted you to kind of pick a couple of them and tell the people who you like and why, kind of give your analysis. So, Georgia versus Tennessee, a top 10 matchup between the Hedges and Athens this week. Not sure if Tennessee's starting quarterback will be available. Looks like he's been practicing and out of concussion protocol, but we'll see. Oregon travels to Madison, Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. We have Texas versus Arkansas. Clemson travels to Pitt. And the Gamecocks have a big one at home against Missouri, who somehow is still ranked, even though they haven't played a good game in 6 weeks, which is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. How you can literally take more than half the season off and still be ranked. But I digress. Pick two of them and who you got. Why?
I got South Carolina over Mizzou. And South Carolina's been playing some really good ball as of late. Their quarterback Sellers has been doing his thing. They've pretty much been winning on his back. Beamer went from having a hot seat to sitting on the throne in the state of South Carolina. So I like where South Carolina is going. If they win out, it's not likely, but it's possible that depending on who in front of them loses, they may be able to inch their way to that back end, on the cusp of the playoffs, if not making it to that 12 spot. Again, if they went out and several other teams, have to take a L, but that's a little bit of optimism, being a South Carolina guy, that is. That's not my team. The Buckeyes are my team, but my hometown is South Carolina, just to make sure we're on the same page with that. So that's why I am on that game. The second, and I believe South Carolina is going to be able to pull that one out. The second game, I'm interested to see actually how Texas and Arkansas works out. The only reason I'm picking that one is because I really feel like Oregon against Wisconsin is not any competition. I don't know if Tennessee's quarterback is going to be able to go. If he can't, that's no competition. And I think Clemson is head and shoulders above Pitt. I don't exactly know what we actually have in Texas. I know we crowned them earlier in the season, but the team that they beat for us to crown them is fraudulent. They beat Michigan. Big whoop. They haven't really done much against other teams that are worth playing against, if that makes sense. So, and I'm not saying that Arkansas is, upper echelon team or whatever the case may be, but again, that's one of those SEC teams that are towards the bottom that on any given Saturday can take out a top team. And I'm not sure if Texas should be classified as a top team, even though that's where they're currently ranked.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. For me, I'm going to highlight a couple games as well. I am going to highlight the Georgia-Tennessee game. This game is really interesting to me because Tennessee's ranked number 4, and they really don't have any tremendously impressive victories in my eyes. They've avoided the bad losses. They only have one. I'm curious to see the line seems to tell me that their quarterback is going to play, but concussions are a tricky thing. So and he has been practicing to that point. But I'm not sure about that. But the side I'm more curious about is Georgia. A few weeks ago we talked about how Georgia, from a talent perspective, was one of the best, if not the best team in college football. And we've watched them throughout the year really get exposed. And
Yeah.
it shows you that despite having NIL and the transfer portal, and I think, if not the best, one of the best coaches in college football in Kirby Smart, when you lose a ton of players on defense to the NFL and your quarterback doesn't have the weapons he's used to, they're not able to run the ball. They don't have playmakers on the outside like they used to.
Right.
Like losing Brock Bowers at tight end, and I believe his name, there's the big guy they had, the split end. I think his name is Darnell Washington, I think. I could be wrong on the name, but those two guys just were nightmare matchups, and they didn't even play wide receiver for Georgia. And so, they don't quite have the talent at running back. They're not, I mean, ETN is really good, but he hasn't been as dynamic as I would have expected him to be, or I'm sure they expected him to be. And Beck keeps turning the ball over. Like I heard before the year, he was a possible Heisman Trophy candidate, you know. But you can't keep throwing two picks every week and make the mistakes he did. So can Georgia win? This is a must-win game if they have any chance to make the playoffs. Can they put together a complete game? We haven't seen it in a while. And so I'm curious to see how that'll look. The other game I'm curious about is, and this is kind of a be careful game for me. Oregon travels to Wisconsin. On paper, this should be a no contest. Oregon's been really good. The only Big Ten game they've had any competition that wasn't at least 21 points or more was the Buckeyes game they squeaked out in Eugene. The rest have been blowouts. Wisconsin's just been absolutely railroaded for the most part in these conference games against big-time teams. But you're going to a desperate Wisconsin team. who got pasted by Iowa last week. You're going across the country, multiple time zones. And again, I'm confident that the Ducks will win the game. All I'm just saying is be careful, because if you don't play great, this is a game that can get you. Sometimes weird things happen in November, especially when you get the last half. Teams are trying to finish undefeated, win the conference, get to the conference game, all those things, playoffs, the pressure mounts. We watched Indiana barely escape Michigan last week. BYU barely escaped Utah in a rivalry game. Iowa State's coughed up back-to-back games after being undefeated. Pitt's coughed up back-to-back games after being undefeated. Navy lost 2 of their last 3, and they're an underdog again this week against Tulane, who's probably going to beat them. I would think they'll beat them. I'm just saying that be careful.
Agreed, definitely. It just worries me when I don't know if a QB is going to go. So that's why I'm just like, I mean, even if you're having to split practice time because you don't know if he's going to go, that affects the week. So I don't know. I'll have to. I'm leaning on the Georgia side of things for that they'll figure out how to get it done.
Well, the other thing, Zay, to your point too, that's concerning is it's one thing to essentially clear protocol and practice, right? But if you're just coming out of having a concussion the game before, who's to say that you can't have it happen again? Or in theory, while you're cleared, maybe there's still some after effects of it, and you take a hit and that's it. So
or you play differently because of what happened last week, and now you're a little bit more tentative than you would be, in weeks prior. So
right.
It's just like any other injury. You have the physical portion that you have to get over, but then there's the mental hurdle that you have to get over as well, and feeling as if you're going back to that air of invincibility, if you will, that's kind of necessary when you play a sport such as football. When you've just been shown that you are very much capable of being hurt, and you go from the mindset of invincibility to anything can happen any given week, some of the plays that you may have been willing to take a few more seconds to try to create, you're going to make a business decision. So it's bad timing in my humble opinion.
Yep, no doubt.
The truth and nothing but the truth. What we got up first, BK?
Why do NFL front offices so often incorrectly evaluate NFL quarterback prospects?
For me, this is 2 very succinct statements that I'll make as far as why they tend to continuously make mistakes. A huge part of the problem is they overlook obvious flaws and have the attitude that, oh, well, if they're on this team, I can fix that, or I can fix them. The second thing, just as importantly, they take a 2 to 3 day process of the underwear Olympics, aka the draft combine, and throw away 3 to 4 years of tape. You've seen this person play football for 3 or 4 years, and forget all of that. They couldn't run fast in a 40, which they'll never run a 40 in a game in life. They couldn't do a cone drill, which there'll never be cones on a field a day in life. Like they take these props and say, because you didn't perform well on the props, I guess that means that what we saw in real games was a force, and what we're seeing in this 2 to 3 day time period for the underwear Olympics is who you truly are as an athlete. So those 2 things combined, and obviously there are several other things as well, but those are the 2 things that stick out to me the most as far as why teams tend to miss on QB prospects.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I'll kind of continue that thought. So we know that games in the NFL are, or even college football, are won and lost in the trenches.
Right.
But individually, the two most important things to an NFL team is head coach and quarterback. And so these teams and these franchises are so desperate to find that it quarterback. If you find the right guy for the next X amount of years, you're set. If you don't get the right guy, it sets you back all those years and then some. And then you start the recycling of GM, coach, quarterback repeatedly. Just ask the Browns and the Bears.
Facts.
So I say that to say, too, that yes, it is absolutely ass backwards for you to sit there and judge a prospect on 1 or 2 days at a combine and overlook or allow that to outweigh 3 to 4 years on tape. What if I'm not feeling well the one day? What if I had a death in the family 3 days before that? Like, and I'm being overly dramatic about this, but life happens.
Life happens, yeah. Agreed.
And you're literally putting pressure on one day to overweigh or be a determining. They're too dependent on measurables, and they're not relying on what's on tape. What you see on tape is typically what you're going to get. Now, can you coach that up? Yes, that's your job. But if the guy was terrible in college, it's going to be hard to get him to be good in the pros.
True.
Like, so again, let's go back to Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Watch the tape. Daniels played against better competition. He had better numbers. He was the more polished passer. He had the it factor. Caleb Williams, when he played against any comparable competition, struggled. His numbers ended up being fine, but he took a lot of sacks. He turned the ball over. He made a lot more mistakes than Daniels did. I think that the NFL front offices need to do a better job of picking the best available player and not being forced into picking a quarterback just because they're desperate at quarterback. Go through the years of all the teams that have missed. Tim Couch, Akili Smith, Jamarcus Russell, J.P. Lossman, E.J. Manuel. Like, I could go on for days for all these quarterbacks that they missed. And there's no reason why Akili Smith should have gone number 2. There's no reason why Lossman and E.J. Manuel should be top 15 picks. There's no reason why Caleb Williams should have gone number 1. Like, you've got to do better when you evaluate these prospects. It just makes no sense why these teams would miss so badly all the time.
Next up, would you rather have the Cowboys, Bengals, Jets, or Giants head coaching job? And it's likely that I would say it's likely that all of those jobs will be up for grabs depending on who's out there that's willing to take them on. But who you got?
So for me, this is an easy decision. I would gladly take the Bengals. Now, here's why. All 4 of these teams, their ownership and front office is a hot mess. So all of those are a negative. So you're like, well, BK, why would you jump immediately on the Bengals? Well, the Jets quarterback's going to probably retire, and if he even plays, is still irrelevant, other than his mind. And other than his mind, Aaron Rodgers should retire. He's done. The team is going nowhere. The Giants are way worse off than even the Jets, and the Cowboys. We already know that deal. I don't want to any part of dealing with Jerry Jones telling me what to do all the time and running the show, and then me being held accountable for all the decisions he makes. So if I have zero say and I'm going to take all of the criticism, that's not a deal I want. And not to mention, I don't want a team that we all know is rebuilding. They won't come out and say it, but they are. Their offseason move was signing a long snapper. Good luck with that, right? They're not better than the Eagles. They're not better than Washington. And I can't stand their quarterback who can't win when it matters. So I'm good with that. Give me the Bengals. I'll take Joe Burrow, who's proven when he's healthy. And I know that's the big question mark. Can he stay healthy and for how long? But if he's and when he's healthy, to me, he's the second best quarterback in the AFC behind Patrick Mahomes. He has that moxie. He's a winner, and he's got a lot of weapons. Give me the Bengals.
I completely agree. It's the Bengals. It's not even close. Give me the franchise that has a true franchise quarterback and also a franchise wide receiver. You need that go-to guy for your QB. They're a great pair. You can figure out the running back. If you get a good enough defensive coordinator, you can figure that out for the most part. If those two pieces are filled in Cincy, they definitely are. There's not a whole lot more other than good coaching. And the difference between their front office and the front offices of the other teams that we've mentioned, they're just cheap. They're not meddlesome. And there's a
Right.
huge difference.
Yeah.
So the Bengals' bad front office isn't equivalent to those other teams' bad front office. So that's kind of where as far as that's
And
concerned.
real quick, say, like, I agree with you because, think about it, right? Not only is Joe Burrow by far the best quarterback of those four teams we talked about,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying that he is the best wide receiver in the NFL, but I will tell you this. There is no wide receiver that I would rather have on my team than Jamar Chase. To me, he is the guy. He is tremendous, amazing, and sensational. Give me him every day.
There's an argument that Justin Jefferson is the number one guy. But for me, they're 1A, 1B on any given week. And the fact that Jamar has Burrow throwing him the ball versus Jefferson having whoever he may have over the next several years, that kind of fleshes it out for me as far as who I would perceive to be the best. Sometimes the person that's the best is based on their situation, not necessarily based on their talent. So I can definitely see where you're coming from.
So to wrap up our truth, and nothing but the truth, why do you think Lamar Jackson has struggled versus both the Chiefs and the Steelers? I ask this because, they play the Steelers this week in a big game that we talked about earlier. He's 1-3 against the Steelers, 1-5 counting the postseason against the Chiefs. To what do you attribute those struggles?
Actually, it's pretty simple. Two of the best coaches in the league. Coaches know how to take away your best weapon and then say, what can you do against me now? And that's what those two coaches done. They may be literally the two best coaches in the NFL. I don't know if there's any argument against Andy Reid at this point. Tomlin, for him to not have a losing season with some of the teams that he's had, I'd be hard pressed to find another head coach that would not have had a losing season with some of the teams that he's had. So for me, it all boils down to coaching. Can I coach your best player out of the game? And if I can, that puts me in a position to be able to win.
So for me, I think it's not only that, but I also think there's a couple other things. One, both these teams have really good defenses. And so they're able to schematically contain what Lamar likes to do. Lamar hasn't been blessed with great wide receivers either. So that's also been a problem for them. But I also think, too, in Lamar Jackson's case specifically, while I know he's won league MVP and I know that he's had a lot of success, in the big games, I still don't trust him to throw the ball effectively. He really isn't a polished, great passing quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. He has a lot of positive qualities that you would want in a quarterback, but specifically passing the ball is not one of his strengths. And I think that hurts them against these tough physical teams, especially when you couple that with the great coaching. So that people out there don't think that I'm bashing and railing on Lamar. The other thing I'll say too, going back, is he hasn't had the wide receiver help, and that's the other thing, is it's hard to do a lot when you're not given the toys to be successful. I mean, I know Brady did it without much help at wide receiver, but Brady's the GOAT for a reason. So there's not 25 or 10 or 15 Bradys walking around playing quarterback. So it's a different thing.
All righty. So
All right, we're back.
little technical difficulty there, but let's go ahead and keep it rolling. So, top 5 all-time commercials, and on this one, I don't believe we have crossed at all as far as what our favorites are. So, number 5 for you.
My number 5 is Life cereal. Mikey likes it. Always love that commercial. So that would be my number 5. What you got?
Number 5 for me. Bud Wise Sir. The Budweiser frogs, bro. Oh, and just so you and the audience knows, I'm either going to sing or mimic every single one of these. So hold on to your hats. It's coming. But the Budweiser frogs come in at number 5 for me. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Real Men of Genius. These things make me laugh. Real Men of Genius. I love those commercials. Make me laugh. I still to this day will play some of those back. Oh, goodness.
Love it. Yeah. That is definitely that's in my honorable mention. But yeah, love it. All right.
What you got for 4?
Number 4. Number 4 is quite simply the best part of waking up. And the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Can't beat that. Everybody knows that. Even if you didn't mean to learn it, you know it.
I love it.
Number 3, what you got?
My number 3 is Dos Equis, the most interesting man in the world.
In the
And
world.
remember, Zay, and people out there, stay thirsty, my friends.
Absolutely. That's another great one. All right. So I'm going to lose half of the audience on this one. And I'm also going to show my age. But my buddy, wherever I go, he goes, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy and me. And just for kicks, kid sister, wherever I go, you're gonna go, kid sister. Okay, I'll stop now. But yes, the My Buddy commercial was one of my favorite for sure.
My number 2, I love the Coca-Cola commercials. So Coca-Cola, they make a lot of great ones. I'm just going to use that in general and say Coca-Cola's number 2.
I did something similar there as far as just in general, but the Red Bull gives you wings. There's probably about 10 different Red Bull gives you wings commercials that I will just sit there and giggle back and forth at. But yeah, Red Bull gives you wings. That's one of my favorite commercial series, if you will.
My number 1, this won't surprise anybody. My number 1, of course, is your Nike Find Your Greatness campaign. But my all-time favorite commercial specifically of Nike, we all want to be like Mike.
Don't use absolutes, BK. We don't all want to be like Mike, but
But you definitely would like his bankroll.
absolutely, or anyone like him, or slightly above or below him. So yeah, for sure. All right,
Who
so
you
I'm going to
got?
throw out 2 honorable mentions before I give my number 1. One of my honorable mentions is very much local or regional, and I'm going to see. Well, and it depends. You've been in South Carolina for a while, so this might make sense. But you gotta obey what those signs say. You gotta obey what those signs say. Louis the Lightning Bug. Like that was one. That was one of my favorite. That's one of my honorable mentions. And then my other honorable mention is just about any Old Spice commercial. They're all just out there. But my number 1, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, ribs. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, ribs. Chili's baby back ribs. Chili's baby back ribs. Barbecue sauce. That's my favorite one, bro. And it helps that Mike Myers put it in with in this what is it? This the Spy That Shagged Me series or whatever it was with can I say this on this show? A fat bastard. That was the guy's name.
It's the guy's name in the movie. You can say it.
That was one of the funniest movies. I don't know if it's just where I was in life at the time or what, but that whole series killed me. And that particular, the what was it? Get in my belly, baby. The other white meat. Like that was just that movie is hilarious. But that is
Love
my
Austin Powers.
love Austin Powers. All right, BK. It's time to get serious. It's time to win us some money. BK's best bets.
Are you
What
taking
we got for
notes?
this week?
I
Absolutely.
don't see any pen and paper.
It's all electronic now.
Okay, all right. So this week's best bets. We're going to start with the NFL. Try for another undefeated week. Yes, last week was perfect across the board in the NFL. 2 small teasers this week, and I hit on these earlier when we went through that. The Niners, I like the money line there. Move that line from I think it's like 6.5 right now over Seattle. Move that to a half or money line. I like the Niners to win at home. They'll have no problem beating Seattle. Seattle's looked really bad and regressed after a 3-0 start. They've really struggled. And then the Chiefs. The line was they're getting 2. Let's move that to 8. Can Buffalo beat them in Orchard Park? Sure. Do I really think Buffalo, who can't seem to beat them ever, beat them by 2 scores? No, I don't think so. Give me the Chiefs +8 on the road. I'll take the better coach, the better quarterback, and the undefeated team. That's the NFL best bets. A lot of tricky lines, just a little. Don't get caught up in some of these really, really close games. Like tonight, I know you guys are going to miss the Eagles -3.5, -4 against Washington. That was too close to take. The Steelers are a 3-point home underdog against Baltimore. The odds makers, I think, did their job. Just sit back and enjoy a great game. That's a tough one to try to figure out. And the Chargers Bengals is another tough one. That's another one I'd try to just pass and enjoy. I just think it's too close to try to get that one down. In college, I'm going to ride the BYU wagon again. I know they were lucky to survive Utah last week. Give me BYU at home -3 over Kansas. Big game in Provo. Utah played them really tough. I don't think BYU is going to play as bad 2 weeks in a row. Give me BYU -3 at home. Also, Washington, I like the Huskies -3 against UCLA at home. Washington's been really good at home this year. I think that continues against the Bruins. Also, some teaser bets. Give me Clemson -4 at Pitt. Pitt's a mess. They played bad 2 weeks in a row. I expect it to be 3 weeks in a row against a Clemson team that needs to win out to have any chance of making the playoff and make the ACC title game. Colorado, prime time. Give me the Buffs -4 at home against Utah. By the way, Utah, the starting quarterback who came out of nowhere to surprise BYU last week, wasn't even supposed to start. He got stretchered. He's out for the year. They're going back to the guy who's terrible. Give me the Buffs at home. Colorado controls its own destiny to win the Big 12 and make the playoffs. Dion's not going to blow this one at home. Give me Shedeur and prime time. Give me the Buffs -4. The Ducks, quack, quack, -8 on the road at Wisconsin, excuse me. The Ducks have been good all year. They had that tough one against Boise early. They also struggled against the Buckeyes, survived both of those. They've been on cruise control ever since. The other game, Arizona State +15 at Kansas State. Key thing that you didn't maybe know, I haven't mentioned the Sun Devils all year on this program until now. The Sun Devils 7-2 against the number, make it 8-2 this week. Those are the BK best bets. Let's make some money.
Arizona. That's Arizona, not Arizona State. That's the Sun
Arizona State.
Arizona State. Gotcha. 10-4. I got them on the list. That wraps up the best bets, and now we can hop into the can't miss weekly rants. I'll go ahead and start us out first this week, BK. I'm sick of NFL fans coming up with the lamest excuses for why your team isn't performing or just isn't very good, whether it be this year or year over year. In many cases, there are legitimate reasons, such as major injury or a front office that just can't get out of the team's way. But then there are also times when there's just excuses. Well, if we had only scored like 3 more points in the last 3 games, we would have won them all. But you didn't. So shut up. Like, what are we talking about? Like, either you won or you didn't win. Like, I'm not interested. When I talk about my Patriots, you've never heard me come on here and say, but if we had a just, we didn't. And I hope we don't, because we need the highest draft picks possible. But at the end of the day, accept it for what it is. I don't care if it's the refs. I don't care if it's an injury. it is what it is. You either win or you lose. And when you lose, do that just as gracefully as hopefully you win games and keep it moving. But all the excuses and this person did this, and if that person hadn't have done that, it's all in a game. It all matters. And at the end of the day, all things normally have to come together in a game of inches to not lose said game. And that's where I'm at, BK.
Couple quick reactions to that. One, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, what a Merry Christmas it would be, Zay. And the second thing is my all-time favorite excuse was good old former Browns coach Butch Davis, who after Jamal Lewis ran for, at that time, an NFL record 295 yards and 5 touchdowns, said, if you took away his 5 touchdowns, we held him in check. Hello? It doesn't work like that. You can't just swipe away 5 touchdowns.
Oh, Lord. That's precisely what I'm talking about right there. Like, what? Like, what?
What are we doing?
If our defense had played better, we could. What?
Right.
Yeah, at any rate.
So my rant, and I know, good people, you're going to be shocked that I'm actually going to be concise. So I hope you're all sitting down because this is a rare moment. Here it is. For the love of God, please stop complaining and whining about the playoff rankings already in college football. This is only the second week. Do you know how many times it's going to switch between now and the end of the year? The only time you really need to care is the last week. Until then, just stop it. I don't want to hear why you're 13, 15, 8, 12, 10. It doesn't matter. Win your damn games, control what you can, and then at the end of the year, if you don't like your ranking at that point, then I would be okay with it. Until then, just shut up and play the games.
And that, our friends, is the truth and nothing but the truth. Make sure you check out the earlier shows in the week if you didn't get an opportunity to. And again, remember, we are on YouTube at The Gospel STP. On Facebook, you can check out our Facebook group, The Gospel Sports Truth. And we can't wait to have you aboard. There's a lot more information, a lot of updates, and all that kind of good stuff on the Facebook group. So we'd love to have you there. But again, for this evening, we are done. And remember, tell the truth.
And nothing but the truth. Have a great weekend, y'all.